Hi, welcome everybody. So glad that you're joining us today. I'm here with Dr. Christine Herring, and to get us going, if it's okay, I'm going to read your bio.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Dr. Christine Herring is an esteemed author, trainer, consultant, and educator, and she brings with her over 20 years of expertise to her partnerships with organizations seeking to elevate their missions through impactful communication and leadership development. Her work is rooted in a deep commitment to helping individuals and teams communicate effectively, building strong relationships, and achieve sustainable growth. She's the author and self-publisher of the acclaimed series Mind Jukebox, a mental playlist for inclusive leaders. There's 3 volumes, and Dr. Herring blends music and leadership insights to help individuals reshape their narratives. Now, the bio goes on, and I invite you to go to her website, and we're going to share that in the play notes, and then you can read more about Dr. Herring and all the amazing work that she does. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here with you. I've been looking forward to this, and yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation with you, Dr. Swart.
Thank you. So, you and I just met a little bit ago. I was in Pittsburgh, and I heard you speak. And at the very end of the evening, it was for the Pittsburgh Business Times. I came up to you, and I was kind of, I was almost wondering, like, why did I come that evening? And then I just felt so compelled to talk to you. And I think we talked for a second and decided to have a one-on-one. And then you came to an event where I spoke at, and here we are. So
It's amazing how life works like that, isn't it?
it is. And so, and I really trust my intuition. And sometimes I don't understand. I don't need to understand, why I feel, attracted to talk to somebody or to do something. So thank you. I have to tell you, from that evening, I loved the presentation, and I really loved the way that you combined the songs that you picked with helping people change the messages, the beliefs that they have about themselves. I work a lot with unconscious and subconscious beliefs, and I thought that was so unique and so good for people to have those tools, because a lot of times the music is so negative. It gives us so messages that just put us down, and we're not, especially women, when she's not worth anything, and go back, and so great that you're doing that you're putting that out there, and I'm sure people love it, and you get lots of positive feedback.
Yes. So one of the things that really inspired Mind Jukebox was the messages that I realized that I had either received all of my life, or that, as because of past experiences, that I had developed telling to myself.
Mm,
And one of the things that has been one of the things that has been very instrumental in my resilience is music, the lyrics specifically. And so, because lyrics are like stories a lot of times, and you can hear someone else's story, and you can feel and experience what has been the thing that has gotten them over the obstacle or the elephant. I like to think of challenges and problems in my life as elephants. And
mm,
in that way, it allows me to break it down to be able to see, okay, how do I eat this elephant one bite at a time? And music has contributed hugely to that. It has always been a staple in our home. I have 3 daughters, and I can still hear my husband saying, when we would get up in the morning to start our days, whose turn is it to cry this morning? And he would put on music, and we'd have our dance parties, and the music would just settle the household. And so that's where that whole idea came from. And it's not that it prevents us from having those negative thoughts or, negative self-beliefs, but it helps combat them. It gives us a place to remix those soundtracks in our mind to something negative to positive.
Let's take a quick break. I want to remind you that if you're interested in learning more about neuro emotional coaching or kinesiology, if you would like to have a taste, find out what it could do for you or your business, your family, please look at the show notes. There's a link for a 30-minute free introductory meeting, and we can explore it. You can look at what is holding you back, what are your dreams, what is it that you always wanted to achieve. Don't be shy, sign up. Now, let's get back to the show. It's so true. I have two little kids, as you know, and my older one, he loves to sort of listen to what's popular, and at least 2 months ago it was Bruno Mars and Rose. And I tell them, you brush your teeth and get everything ready, and then on the way to school, we're going to put on apate, and then they sit in the back of the car and they, get all excited. And it makes such a difference because, it's uplifting, it's fun, it brings good vibes. So, I also do a lot with music, and it's important that that's part of their lives, and all kinds. They get exposed, right? So not just to one particular kind of music, but that they learn about what's out there.
Yeah, we have an eclectic catalog of what we like to listen to, and we feel very proud that we exposed our children to that. So
Yeah.
they are, someone plays something old school, they can connect to it.
Right.
They have, past, present, and you know and what's coming down the pike in the future. And a lot of times, because of the way that they have been exposed to music, they can also see the trends and see like where
Cool.
music where be able to see where music was from the past and different ways that songs were put together, lyrics, but then see how it's evolved, and then see the full circle of how it starts to come back to where it was before. And that's something that specifically my husband is very proud of, because music has always been a huge thing for him.
Cool. I'm going to send you something from the Middle East that I'm sure you haven't heard.
Okay,
Some
awesome, awesome.
stuff that is popular here right now, and it's like blending the Israeli and the with the Sephardic culture, and I'll send you some stuff.
I would love that, because it's an art form, right?
Yeah.
It's an art form, just like communication, just like leadership. I think everything relates to in our home. Chuck always refers to things as a drum. He's like, everything is a drum. And we were watching James Brown, and he there's a part in that movie where he is saying to a musician, "What are you playing?" or something, and the guy names the instrument, and he was like, "No, it's a drum. Everything is a drum. It's all connected." And so art, music, um, leadership, communication, it's all connected. And when we can learn to see that and use that, man, we can really make some changes.
We can, yeah. So that's a good segue. Let's talk a little bit about leadership communication. And I have many questions, but let me ask you two. So one, who inspires you in your field? When you think about communication and leadership, who inspires you? Let's start there. And I don't want to shoot too many things at you.
So in my field, who inspires me is Brene Brown.
Okay.
And I think the reason why is her whole belief system on vulnerability and relationships. I don't think any of this work can be impactful or transformational without the relationship. It's
Mm.
all relational. And so in order to build authentic relationships, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And so I have I've read her books, I've listened to her podcasts, and she is a person that I really connected with early on because of just her authenticity. Just it always seemed to me that she was just who she was. She wasn't putting on for the camera. She wrote and she believes and she walks in what she believes. And that is something that is really important to me, is to demonstrate and to be who I to if I'm telling a person or working with a person or saying that they can do something, if I haven't attempted to do it myself, or if I'm not being what I'm talking about, then I'm not being very authentic.
It's true. And, I think with her, what is so attractive about her is that she made such a big turnaround. She didn't believe in any of that. She thought it was kind of like bullshit, and then, and then she did her research and was like, oh my God, vulnerability. And, she had this, aha moment, and that made the difference. And she talks about it freely. So that's, I think, very attractive, and it makes her even more authentic. And I think it's a lot of what happens to us. We're like, I remember when I started to do my work and somebody exposed me to the muscle testing and the kinesiology. And I was like, oh my God, I think this bullshit, and here we are 30 years later, and this is my bread and butter, and this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a 180-degree switch from, I don't think this works, and I can't believe in this, and this seems weird, and to, okay, now I'm doing it myself. So, she falls in that category.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And when you find someone, when it goes back to relationships, when you are able to relate to someone, then now you can be vulnerable and you can open up and you can be free. Because without that freedom, then there's that barrier, there's that wall, and you're just having polite conversation. You'll never get down deep.
That's right. Yeah. So it's true. What inspired you to move into leadership and work and how people communicate differently and become more vulnerable and authentic? What was that for you?
Um, I like to keep things very simple, and
Mhm.
sometimes people are looking for this complicated, big, moment thing. It's very simple. It was my why. My why, my children are my why, having 3 daughters, and being a Black woman and raising Black girls to become women. um I wanted to give them the things that I felt they would need to be successful. And one thing I have always believed in, and I didn't have the words when I was younger, but I believed in leadership from wherever you are. So being a leader, 360-degree leaders. I think there's a book that I read some years ago, and being a leader from wherever you are is really important to me. So at every phase in my life, I made a commitment that I was going to be and do the best that I could be, and do the best that I can do, and be the best version of myself that I can be. And that looks different, right? At different phases in your life. And that was my inspiration to be the best. And in understanding that leadership is about relationships. And so at any point in my life, or in a job, or in my community, and in my home, I have the ability to have a positive impact on someone. And if I don't take that opportunity, then I'm not fulfilling my responsibility. And it's not when I get to this position, then I'll do that. Because if you can't do it from wherever you are, what makes you think you're going to do it when you get to another space or to another place? And so, you know, wanting to set that example for my children, and also wanting to leave any space that I had the opportunity to be a part of, to leave it better. And that means, you know, that's all connected to leadership. If I was here and when I left, it's better because of my presence, then I've demonstrated leadership.
Beautiful. Beautiful. When you say that, I do have another question for you about that. You know, I shared with you that my mother recently passed away, and you know, I'm being asked to lead in a whole new way now that she's passed away, and you know, I'm the middle child and I'm the only girl, so you know, I often think women with having and the middle child, that's sort of like a special role, like not that all the other positions also have a special role, and I'm the one that's far away. So I, as you say that, I'm like, I feel like I'm leading the the family efforts or bringing everybody together in a whole new way, and I really thought about it intentionally. How do I want to lead? What are the qualities that I want to lead the conversations or the way that I'm showing up? And it's making a huge difference. And so I think what you say is there's so much merit, that we have an opportunity to lead all the time, whether that is I'm leading my kids to brush their teeth, or I'm leading a meeting of 2,000 people, or I'm whatever it is, and that we when we bring our intentionality to it, we really have the opportunity to make a huge difference. Now, granted, we're not always going to be our best, and that's okay, because we're not going for perfection. We're going for excellence. But life gives us these opportunities,
Hmm.
and we can decide what we want to do with it. So thank you for saying that, because it's just making me see that, oh, I'm doing a really good job leading my family through this transition of, okay, we had parents, and now both of our parents are, have moved on.
And
So
I love what you just said about excellence. Like, it's not perfection, but you can give your best, and you can strive for excellence, and that's going to look different at different. There's a book that I love, the Four Agreements, and one of
hmm
the agreements is to always do your best. And
hmm
it talks about how your best looks different when you're healthy as opposed to when you're sick.
right,
Your best looks different when you are thinking about, now both of my parents have moved on, as opposed to both of my parents are here. So there's all these different times in our life when our best is going to look different. It doesn't mean that it's not our best, because at different points and times in our life, we only have so much, and if you're giving all you have at that moment, and that's your best, then that's your best, and you have to be okay with that.
right. And then there's other things that we do in order to, bring ourselves back into balance.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I can't remember what I wanted to ask you something about, leadership. But let's talk a little bit about. Is there, and I remember, is there like a leadership moment where you go, oh my God, I'm like really proud the way I handled this, or I look back and I go, wow, you know, that was really excellent.
The moments that I look back, and I think this is going to sound weird, because the moments the moments that I think were really great and excellent were the moments when that I was able to learn from. So
Okay.
the process of getting to that excellent moment in the beginning was not so excellent. And I would say most of those times were when I had to have difficult or uncomfortable conversations because of the way my leading communication style. I'm always looking for win-win. And
Mm-hmm.
in some of those times, because I want others to win, it might be lose-win for me. So I'm always looking for, so I'm always giving of myself. I'm always concerned about how people feel. And I want people to feel good about the outcomes. But one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn in leadership is that sometimes win-win doesn't feel good.
Oh,
And
right.
yeah, and
Right.
win-win doesn't mean that it might no, like the outcome as you continue to move through that process is going to be what's best for everyone. But in
Right.
the moment when you're having to have that difficult conversation or that uncomfortable conversation, and that's a challenge for me, it doesn't feel good. And you can't control how others are going to feel because you
Right.
can't control people's emotions. And so those were the moments that were really turning points on my leadership journey in understanding that when you're striving to get the best outcome for all parties involved, it might not feel good. People might not like you. People might be upset with you, even angry with you. And you might even lose some relationships because you've had to make a decision that was the best decision, but it wasn't the decision that maybe everybody was hoping for. And that and learning and growing through that process has been the most rewarding for me. I even have a song and I write about it in volume 1 of my
Mm.
book, and that song is "Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye."
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so and I write about it through the lens of, as a
Mm.
leader, you have to make decisions that are best for the team as a whole and not just for a particular individual. And in making those decisions that are good for the good of the team, it might mean that you have to say goodbye to a team member that is creating challenges for the team as a whole.
Or you might have to say goodbye. You might be
Yes.
the one, you might be the one that, that's moving on. If I can only relate this to myself, and sometimes the highest good, or like I say win-win, or the highest good for the group, is that I have to make sacrifices. I've been through 18 months of war, and I always say I don't wish this on anybody, and I'm still grateful because I don't live in Gaza. I can't imagine. Um, but life is not fair. We don't all have the same abilities, and to think that everything is equal is very foolish, because things aren't equal, because we aren't equal, we aren't the same, we need different things. And so sometimes when we create win-win, I think as you describe them, that means I might have to make a sacrifice. I
Mhm.
might have to take a step back. I'm maybe the one that has to say goodbye, even though you may not be ready. And I think that's important and I wish more people were coming to this like you do, because I think making decisions for the community, win-win, whether it's a leadership group or a team or school or whatever it is, or an organization, it's like that's really what we need. I think that's what we need as a society in order to to uplift ourselves. And it's not like you're better than this and you're better than that and these people are over there. It's like, what can we do, and so that we can lift all of us and
Yes.
and be and do better.
Yes. What 100%. So when you say what are your most rewarding leadership moments, I think I think that when I think about different times when I've been put in that position, and like I said, it's a process that I can go back, and think how at the onset of the process, I didn't make the right choices. I didn't choose the right words. I prolonged the situation, hoping that the person would come to it on their own. And then by the time we get to that point where I'm forced to have to say, now I've created this situation where if I had did it at the beginning, maybe the outcome would have been better. But again, that's learning. And,
That's
and when you're, life is all about learning. And sometimes I think we experience the same things over and over again because we haven't gotten a lesson from it. And so those are the moments that I look back on, and I'm very, very proud. And those are my aha moments, like to be able to say, dang, if I had did it this way, or, I have this framework that I use in my trainings. It's called the 4 A's, and it stands for awareness, action, assess, again. And, when I think about the, when I think about that framework, I use it in my trainings, but I use it in my own life. I'm always trying to create awareness around things that I don't know or understand, and be aware, create more knowledge. But then, that's great, but then you have to put some action to it. And then once you put that action, you got to think about, what were those outcomes? How did that go? What could I have done better when I'm faced with that situation again? How am I going to handle it? And then you look for those again moments to be able to do it all over again.
right. Exactly. What do you do when when you feel like you're down a little bit, or something didn't go the way you wanted to, or life's giving you a challenge? Like, do you have any sort of tips of how you get yourself back into, you know, feeling balanced or feeling good about yourself?
I learned, fortunately for me, and I say, when I share things like this, I always say, people have to find what works for them. And even though this works for me, I'm human. So I don't always do it right away. And then I remember, oh God, but what I have learned is, first, to validate my emotions, to allow myself some time.
Right.
And I think every situation deserves a different amount of time. Some
Mm.
situations, you might need a day. Some you might only need a few hours. Some you might only want to give a few moments to. But I allow
Right.
my time to validate those emotions and those feelings. And then I put on music,
Oh,
and
cool.
and a dance party, because
Oh,
once that
cool.
music starts going, I mean, you can't help but change the way you feel. And sometimes, even though I know this, and every single time it works, there are some times when it's like, I just don't feel like listening to any music. I don't feel like trying to find the right song. And I have found that it's just put on your playlist. So what I started doing, and that's what kind of inspired my Jukebox, is a playlist for inclusive leadership. Now I create playlists for certain things so that I don't have to search for the songs. So I can have a playlist when I need to be elevated, a playlist for when I'm feeling I need a switch in, and maybe there's nothing wrong, but I just need a switch in the energy around me. So I have these different playlists. I have my work playlist when I'm going in to speak. If I'm speaking in a school, I have a playlist for schools. If I'm speaking at a business, I have a playlist for certain environments and organizations. So I've learned to create these playlists. So now I just hit my button on my playlist, and that helps to turn things around for me.
Good. That's fantastic. I'm gonna come visit and see what kind of music you've got going on in your house. Like always, rock and roll in there.
Always, always. We got our playlist when we're going out on a date. You know what I mean? So
Woo!
yeah, playlists are helpful for me. That's what works for me. But you know, even though it works for me, it's not even that I'm resistant to do it. It's just that sometimes we just get in our own way.
All the time. We get in
Yeah.
our way all the time because, that's our neural pathways and that's what we know. And so then we go and do the same thing that the reptilian brain does all the time. And it's very, difficult. Well, I shouldn't say it's difficult. It just needs effort and focus and willingness to change those automatic responses because, that's what I do and I believe in it and I've seen it thousands of times. So yeah, that's good. Playlist, people. Create your own playlist. That's what we're encouraging you to do. So we're almost out of time. And I wonder if I can put you on the spot a little bit because if you would be willing to share a little bit, you and I had a chance to work with you a little bit. You're free to say, no, I don't want to talk about it. But if you would be willing to share a little bit what that was like for you when I worked with you a little bit at the event that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, absolutely. It was very, it was very emotional. It was very emotional because it called for me to visit maybe some spaces that I didn't want to go. And I still keep thinking about the statement that you said that in another time frame before I was reincarnated, that
Right.
that I was lost.
Mm.
And that really touched me because I believe that we are all on this journey of life, and on this journey we're always reinventing ourselves.
Right.
And for the last maybe couple of years, I have felt a little bit lost in trying to figure out who I am on this leg of my journey.
Mm.
Like I'm a mother of now adult children. That calls for you to navigate life differently. I've lost both of my parents, but both of my husband's parents are still living. So we're sort of sandwiched in between these two generations, the generations of taking care of aging parents, and then the generation of parenting differently our adult children who now have children. So I'm also a grandmother.
Mm.
And so that really resonated with me in terms of how I'm finding myself in this new space,
Cool.
and what that also means for being a businesswoman, because for the last I want to say 5 years or so, I have not had a job while also doing what I'm doing. So now I'm a 100% entrepreneur, or and I use the word solopreneur, but when I say that, I always like to clarify that I'm not in it alone, because I have great partners that I work with. I'm learning all the time from different spaces, so I'm solo in the sense that I'm responsible for the business moving forward, but I do have wonderful partners in my co-founder, and I have an operations specialist, and then I have some other just close friends and family that I can pull on to get advice from. But even in that space, like who am I, right? Like finding myself there to constantly be learning and growing, and in the lab, and then getting out of the lab and putting it into practice. So being intentional of reinventing myself, using all the things that were a part of me in these in on my journey, but then making space for the new pieces that I am developing and learning about, and finding out who I am, not as an educator or as a mother or as a daughter, but as also as a businesswoman, and what pieces from from those other parts of me will serve me well as a businesswoman, but what pieces do I need to retire to a shelf when I'm in that mode? Because not
Mhm.
all of it is going to be good as an entrepreneur. So that really, it stirred up a lot of emotions. It has me thinking more intentionally and examining my belief system about what I want, not only what I want, but what I feel I deserve, like claiming it and really believing it. And because, you during that session, you found some what's the word that I'm trying to put, like what I believe and what I want were not congruent.
Right, not aligned.
Yes, not that's the word I was looking for, alignment, to create that alignment. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I am what it did is it opened up. You got a lot of work to do, girl.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me do some neuro-emotional coaching with you in a public venue. It's good. I love doing what I do, and because I want to help people and support people and getting to what they want to manifest in their lives. So that's important.
Yes, absolutely. It was definitely a and I have to be honest, as I was sitting there, I was skeptical. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. And then when you experience it yourself and you're like, wait, no, okay, this is not like, this is real. This is real. And so I want to thank you because having the opportunity to experience that opened my mind up to a whole another form of a resource that's available that can help me on my journey that I was not familiar with prior to that session.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. It's a resource, right? It's a resource that's available for people on their journey. And that's where I was 30 years ago. I thought, oh my God, I was more than skeptical. So it's like, oh, this is crazy. So thank you. Um, Good. I'm glad that you got some value from it.
And I think that if I had been in another part of my life, I could see where you might said this is crazy, because only not for, reason why it wasn't crazy to me is because I believe in energy, and I
Mm,
believe in the parts of I believe that there's so much of us that we are not tapped into,
mm.
and I believe that. And so but I wasn't sure that that was accurate or that was that was real. But then, so it wasn't crazy to me. It was just like, does this really work like that? And then I was like, okay, some of the things that we talked about during that session, I can already start to feel and see um, beginning to align and manifest itself within in my space, in my world. And so you opened me up to be able to receive what is coming my way, where before I might have not seen it.
Yeah, or sabotage yourself.
Right,
So
exactly.
to be continued. That's exciting. So we're going to wrap up for today, and I wonder if you have a quote or something that you want to leave our listeners and viewers with.
I do.
Go
Um,
good.
my family. I'm known for this quote. It's on my answering machine on my phone. It's by
Mm,
Dwyer, and if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. That is a quote that I try to live my life by.
wow.
And nothing else needs to be said. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end. I want to thank you so much for being with me today for this conversation. Really, thank you. And I wish you all the best and lots of ways that you can touch people's lives and organizations and help them with their leadership and getting to more authentic and vulnerable communication. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
my pleasure. And here are my takeaways from my podcast with Dr. Christine Herring. Number 1, create personal playlists for different moods and situations to help shift energy when needed. Number 2, practice the 4 A's framework: awareness, action, assess, again, to continuously improve your leadership skills. Number 3, allow yourself time to validate emotions before taking action to move forward. Number 4, seek out opportunities to lead from wherever you are, regardless of your formal position. Number 5, examine your belief system to ensure your desires and beliefs are in alignment. And number 6, be open to new personal development tools and resources that can help you on your journey, even if you may be skeptical at first. Thank you so much, Christine. It was a pleasure. And until I see you again, take care. All right, action takers, as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to know that I believe in you. Each of you has the power to create positive change in your life, no matter where you're starting from. Remember, it's okay to take small steps. Every bit of progress counts. And the sooner you can take action, the better, because your saboteur loves to create doubt and confusion. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you know what I'll ask of you. Like, subscribe, leave Apple and Spotify ratings and reviews, tell a friend, and generally do all the things you would do to support a podcast you love. Your support helps this message reach more people who might need to hear it, especially right now. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode to support you on your journey. Until then, this is Dr. Barbara reminding you that you're worthy of an extraordinary life. Be kind to yourself as you work towards your goals, and remember, I am rooting for you every step of the way.